Welcome to episode 93 of the Talking Friars podcast. Ben Fadden here today with a special guest, Manny Machado's trainer, Nick Soto. In the offseason, he communicates with him during the season, training in Florida. Nick, thank you so much for joining.
Ben, thanks for having me, man. I
Yeah, no
appreciate it.
problem. Yeah, so first off, obviously in the lockout here, before we kind of get into what he's doing now, how did that relationship start with Manny, and how long has that relationship been going on?
Yeah. So the easy question. So it's been 7 seasons now. I believe we're going on 8. And it started actually with his brother-in-law, Yonder Alonso. I've known him for a long time. He reached out to me about that long ago, about 8 years ago, telling me that they wanted a change in their kind of their training methodology and what they were doing at the time. It had worked to a certain point, and they needed to get to that next level. Yonder himself has kind of struggled at that point in his career, solid career, but not what he expected, right? So when we got together, I was at the time known as a football guy, but they wanted that change. They wanted kind of that intensity change, and that's what I was able to provide. We put our heads together, the three of us, and we came up with a plan that's going on 8 years, and it's been real successful, luckily.
Mm-hmm. What did you mentioned Yonder kind of wanting that change, and then I assume Manny a little bit himself,
Right?
Because Manny obviously earlier in his career, and like most players, they're smaller, not as big, haven't developed as much. When did Yonder kind of think that he wanted that change, and why? Why did they want that change?
From Manny's perspective, I think he was just getting burned out with the workouts he had been doing pretty much since high school. I guess the latter stages of high school, and hadn't really seen, like you said, much progression when it came to his size, his power, even his explosiveness, really. So that's one of the things we talked about that he wanted to do, and then he wanted to just be able to go in, season out, healthy. Knock on wood, we've been knocking that out year after year. Available pretty much every game. In Yonder's case, he wanted to revisit his ability to produce power. Their first year together, he went from, I think 9 was the most home runs he ever hit, and first year together we knocked out 29. So that's a pretty nice jump. Threefold is pretty good. I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, it was a lot more than just what we did together. He changed his approach at the plate and his kick swing and kick leg and all that. But yeah, it was a fun process, man. It's been a great journey so far.
Yeah. I'm curious, what's the difference between, a regular strength training program that I'm sure you run with other athletes and with one like how Manny goes, where it's a professional athlete, someone who is probably way more serious than someone else regarding their strength training, and it's literally their job.
Yeah. So there's 2 parts to that. So one of them is there's a very specific kind of training you want to do with a level athlete of that, right? Because you got to be careful about not getting them hurt. At the end of the day, as strong as we want to get them strong for the field, and we got to get them resilient for the field. That's the most important thing, way more than any kind of strength measure or even velocity or jump measure, whatever we're testing to gauge our progress. Manny in particular, Yonder and Manny in particular, are very specific in what they're looking for, which is great to deal with. So we can talk, it's an open dialogue that we go through, not only coming into the off season and what we're looking for that off season compared to the off season before, but also within that off-season training, it's constant communication and constant, hey, I'm feeling this. Hey, I need to get this. And having an athlete that understands their body, understands what their body's needing at the moment is a true blessing.
Mm-hmm. What do you think makes Manny different from the average, major leaguer? You mentioned, his history of, being able to stay healthy, throughout the season, play 150 games. It seems like he's doing that every year. What's kind of that reason? Is it foam rolling, stretching, post workout, all that stuff? Is it combine that with just different ways that you train compared to other major leaguers? How would you kind of describe that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. One, he's on top of it from the beginning. Off season ends and we're pretty much going almost immediately. Maybe we'll take a week off, maybe 2 at the most if the body's really beat up. But the training starts immediately, and we'll start with kind of like a recovery type of phase. just getting the body back acclimated to moving the way we want it to move. That'll last anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how beat up they are from the season, and then we'll take it on from there. But Manny's also very much on top of having the right massage therapist on hand, his nutrition. We're always tweaking nutrition. Either chefs that we're working with or whatever, we're always trying to keep that part up. His recovery sessions, his sleep patterns, like he does a good job of keeping that real focused. He's not a party guy, as I'm sure you guys probably know by now. So his focus is on baseball 100%, and that's part of what makes him so great. And then obviously the training itself, what we do differently than most is we expose the body to a high threshold of adaptability, or a need for adaptability, that I think other baseball, whether they be private programs or even team programs, they're
Right.
a little bit on the safer side, a little bit more on the cautious side, which they have to be. Baseball is a very, very tricky sport. It's a skill sport, and you don't want to mess with that, and you don't want to put an athlete out because they were hang power snatching 225.
Right.
But having said that, we feel that developing the tissue is the number one goal of our program, being able to handle the stress. So we're going to stress the body, so we're going to deadlift heavy. We're going to deadlift dynamically more than other people will. Like we'll get into some of that stuff, I'm sure. We're going to clean, we're going to snatch things that most baseball programs won't touch with a 10-foot pole. But we do that, and we do that pretty quickly in the offseason program.
Mm. Has Manny or Yonder, when he was playing, have they kind of influenced, if to your ability or to the best of your ability, have they influenced any of their teammates' ways of training?
I'm sure they have. I know they've talked to you guys about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's definitely an ongoing conversation. They've brought in guys to train. But yeah, so they definitely, both of them, Manny now in his last, probably about 3 years or so since he's gone to the Padres, has taken on a leadership role that I'm pretty proud of. Yonder's always kind of been that kind of guy. He's always been like a, locker room leader kind of guy. So he's always taking guys under his wings. You see the maturity in Manny now over the last, like I said, 3 years or so, 4 years or so, where he's taking on that responsibility and really trying to educate these guys on that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we get kind of into his diet, I did want to obviously go over his workouts and all that. So yeah, for the YouTube audience, I'll share my screen and kind of go over, just ask you here, what's kind of his overall workout plan, week by week right now. Like I know that you progress through the off season. You talk about the, amp up phase after the week or two off, but what is he kind of doing now? Just the week split, as we'll show here the videos that you've been posting.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. I don't post too much. We're kind of focused on what we're doing, but every once in a while I'll remember to bring out my camera and get something in. But yeah, so the first one that you saw was a stability or dynamic stability type of shoulder press. And what we're looking for that band to not be bouncing around a lot. Can we get good flexion of the shoulder? That means shoulder coming all the way through the motion, or the arm going all the way through the motion, without that band basically, or that kettlebell bouncing up and down. If you see that kettlebell bouncing up and down, he's kind of like hinging or hitching to be able to get that weight up. We want to see nice, strong stability all the way through. So that's kind of stability exercises. It's more, again, for muscle and tissue resiliency more than it is for anything particular that's going to make him a better ball player. Right. You'll see some videos from maybe a couple of weeks before that when we got started with that, and you'll see that he wasn't getting full flexion. And we've been able to progress it over the last couple of weeks. He was real aware of that, and he made a mental note without me having to grab him too much that he was missing a little flexion. So you see him coming all the way till his elbows fully extended and that shoulders fully flexed past the ear, which is what we want. If you go back a couple of weeks, you'll probably see some videos where he was a little timid in getting up there, right? And that could just be from coming off the season and nicks and knacks and stuff like that. The next video you're seeing is a dynamic eccentric type of load on a trap bar deadlift. So you see, we're not going all the way down. We're not even really focused on the way up, believe it or not. What we're focused on is his ability to stop the momentum. So he's actually going to start really fast. And that actually has a combination with those lunge jumps that you just saw. So we're going to start really fast on the way down, and all of a sudden he's got to hit his brakes about at knee level, just past knee level. He's going to try to slam on the brakes and get an eccentric stop of action, right? And basically what we've identified is the better we can get him to, it's not just him, it's most athletes, right? The better we can get them to absorb forces, the better they're going to be at redirecting forces. So this is going to come into play not only at the plate and throwing the ball, which we know he can do with the best of them, but it's also going to come with his change of direction and being able to kind of load the legs and then push off to get to, a fast ground ball off the side or something like that.
Right. And then the next one here, the jumping lunges.
So that's a contrast with, right. So what we're doing here is we're loading the body, like I said, in a dynamic eccentric way, and then we're turning that into concentric power and unilateral power with those lunge jumps. That was actually a complex. So we did first those dynamic eccentric trap bars, and then we did the lunge jumps immediately after. We usually do about 3 to 4 sets, depending on how he's feeling. We might go as low as 2 sets. 2 sets is enough to elicit some kind of adaptation, and then and we'll go relatively low reps. Lunge jumps anywhere between 5 to 8 per leg at most, as low as 3, and then trap bar anywhere between 2 reps all the way up to 7, 8 reps.
No,
and then the exercise is the glute ham device.
Right.
And we're just doing razor curls on the glute ham, so we're extending the hip and the knee at the same time. So just exposing the hamstring tissue. This is one of our resiliency exercises that we do year round to keep the hamstring strong. Hamstring is the number one injury in baseball, believe it or not shoulder, not elbow, but hamstring injuries. And this is one of the exercises that we've identified to keep that tissue nice and strong and healthy.
Now, if we go back here to, it seems like, so you mentioned the deadlift, but here, this looks more explosive.
Right.
Is that, okay, so, and that's
what explosive in nature. Yeah, one is focusing on stopping the force, and the other one is focused on redirecting the force.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And then we can
both
move
explosive movements, right? They're not slow strength training movements. They're more in that power or that speed strength kind of range.
Right. And now you mentioned the clean here.
Yep. There you go.
This is big on explosiveness too, obviously.
Absolutely. This is all explosiveness. Is getting triple extension through the hips, knees, and ankles, being quick about it. And then again, a little bit of an eccentric load on the catch, which is also important. And its ability to just kind of stop forces or absorb forces. And again, we've identified this not only as a power exercise, but also a resiliency exercise where the shoulders and the elbows are getting exposed to some tissue adaptation that we feel can really keep him healthy throughout the season. He'll actually do these during the season as well. He'll do 225, which is a good amount of weight, especially for somebody that's 6'5", and he'll be doing this throughout the whole season.
And now during the season, I've heard a lot that some players, with how much they're moving, they're just trying to, maintain the weight. Is that the same for Manny? You're just trying to, obviously stay healthy. You're trying to just maintain. You're not, obviously the off season, you're progressing. I know you mentioned on a phone call last week more about building up, putting on mass a little bit, but for during the season, it's more about maintaining, right? So he'll still do some of these exercises. Yeah,
and we'll pick and choose our battles. So for the most part, it'll be maintenance. So relatively low weight, but like I said, he's sent me videos of him executing 225-pound deadlifts. 225-pound power cleans middle season. Talking about end of July, middle August. So we'll pick and choose when he feels good and when he feels ready to attack, and then we'll try to progress a little bit for a couple days, a couple weeks, whatever it may be, and then go back into kind of like you said, that kind of maintaining. Right. And it's very. So we'll try to keep the intensity high and the volume real low. Travel is super taxing on these guys, and all they do is travel, and then days at the ballpark are extensively long. Starting all the way in training camp and going through the season. So the body's pretty tired. The brain is burned out as well. So we want to get them in and out as fast as possible, keep the intensity high, so we can keep that tissue adapting or at least maintaining and not burning them out in the gym.
Mm-hmm. Now we can go to the spreadsheets here. Yeah. Let's see here. This is the more of an overview of here. We'll start with this one. So Manny off season, this was last off season, I believe. So you mentioned before here, this was obviously there's no sets and reps for people watching on YouTube. There's no sets and reps. This is kind of just their starting point, brainstorming a little bit. How does that brainstorming process go? Is it, Manny wanting to do some of these? Is it you? Is it a combination, obviously, of you recommending some exercises? How does that go?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, it starts with a couple conversations and trying to talk about what we're trying to achieve this off season, what we've done previous off seasons that we've liked, what we've done previous off seasons that we haven't seen the results that we expected out of, et cetera. And then we start kind of just plotting it down like you see here, and and then that'll also change from phase to phase, right? So after one phase, let's say it's going well and we decide to take it for an extra week, we may do that. We decide to cut it short, we may do that and go into the next phase. That's kind of, as long as we're escalating our progress, then that fluctuates according to just kind of how he's adapting throughout the process, as long as we finish at a nice peak at the end. So we'll try to reverse engineer it as much as possible, understanding that there's going to be fluctuations and waves and room for error and room for adjustments all along the way. So then once we've talked about what the exercises are going to look like, what exercises I want to do to get him what he's trying to get, then I'll write up something like this, and then we'll sit down and talk about it, and then I'll start coming up with the sets and reps, how many weeks we're going to do it for, how we're going to progress through those weeks, how we're going to periodize it, if you will.
Now, for this particular document, it looks like, Monday, let's see, it looks more lower body. Tuesday, a little, cardio. I know you hit weight room as well, but yes. Tuesday, there's sprints, preps, sand sprints. Wednesday, this looks more, recovery. Thursday, back more. You have sprint prep, a little bit of both, shoulder prep, lower body. How are you kind of, is that still programming the same? Is it upper body, lower body kind of recovery, and then the same thing Thursday, Friday, and then rest the weekends? How is that going?
So for a few years, we've been doing the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday speed agility. I'll put that into one category, and then weight room, where with Wednesday being our recovery day, some Saturdays, also being our recovery days. And we're trying to get those as best we can in that order. Now, in this one here, you'll see that we're talking about he wasn't feeling really ready to go full speed on a Monday, like we usually like to do our linear speed on Monday. So we actually flipped it around from our previous phase, and we actually added our agilities, which are a little less taxing on the central nervous system on Monday. Once his body was ready to go, we put Tuesday as the actual day of the speed work. You see there we did some thigh pops, switch skips, and dribbles to kind of prep, and then we actually got onto the sand and did some sprints in this particular phase. Whether we stuck with that or not, I can't remember, but that was kind of like the thought process going in, where we changed an agility day for linear speed day just based on what we were seeing from the phase before.
What is Manny doing on his recovery days? Is it a lot of stretching, massages?
It's stretching. It's stretching under certain parameters. So we'll stretch under tension. So we'll create some resistance within the stretches. We'll stretch in movement, so we create a lot of movement that day. We might add a little bit of cardio, whether it be a pool session or something like that. And we'll try to get all that in on the recovery days, whether it be Wednesdays and Saturdays or Wednesdays or Saturdays.
And now we can move to this one here. This was from probably 2-3 years ago. You said him and Yonder. Here, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's what it looked like here. Yeah, Saturdays.
Yeah. So
like nothing. So
if you click on Monday, we'll see week 1, week 2, and week 3 in that phase, right?
Yep.
So then within those phases, we'll sorry, baby's crying in the background. I don't know if you hear her or not.
You're good. Yep.
Okay. So if you'll see week 1, week 2, week 3 on the hang snatch and the push press, we actually change the reps a little bit in the middle week, and we add a little bit of volume there, and then we go back down. Reasoning for that is create a little volume, a little extra tissue tear in that second week, and then go back to being explosive on that third week, where we drop the reps on both movements, hopefully increase the the weight as we decrease the reps,
Mhm.
right? As I mentioned, hang snatch, overhead presses, overhead jerks, cleans are stuff that we do that most baseball players stay away from, but that we found just great results with.
And it seems like to me, so during the offseason, obviously, when he's trying to build mass, it's not a whole lot of high rep stuff. I know there's 10 reps here, but usually it's, more 5 reps. Just can you go into kind of that process?
Yeah. So the higher rep stuff you'll see is basically the typical lifts. That's what we'll try to add a little bit extra tension, time under tension, a little extra muscle resistance, and maybe a little muscle mass there. But our main lifts are always focused on lower reps because we're trying to push some weight, or we're trying to create some explosiveness, right? So we can't expect him to get 5 reps of hang power snatch. 10 reps of hang power snatch at 135 pounds. It's just foolish and unrealistic, and it's more not knocking CrossFit, but it's more of a CrossFit workout probably, which is great for them, but it's not what we're after. So in our case, our explosive power and high strength compound lifts are going to be lower in reps and just really focused on technique and execution.
How would you say, how important, I see some of these ISO holds, how important is that in his training? Not just doing, the squats where it's consistent movement and all that. How important is it, staying hold in one spot, because you do have to do that sometimes, obviously in baseball.
Yeah. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought with this baby crying. Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, man. One quick second. I'm so sorry about that.
You're good.
So the ISO holds are, and you'll see in our splits here, are important. We do them in a few of the phases, and basically what the point of them is to build, again, just that muscle stiffness, right, or that tissue stiffness, muscle tendon stiffness,
right.
And basically what we're trying to get out of that is we're trying to get all phases of a movement pattern strong. So it'll be isometric, it'll be eccentric, like you saw the dynamic eccentric drops that we're doing with the trap bar, and obviously concentric, which is what everybody's familiar with, which is pushing the weight or pulling the weight. Right. So we want to get all 3 of those phases in. Usually, most of the time we spend in concentric phase. That's what we're focusing on, right? How fast can we get the bar up? How much weight can we push up, etc. But I feel we do a very good job of keeping focus on the isometric and the eccentric phases of movement, which has done, I think, marvels for us. Not only from a resiliency standpoint, right? So the tissue is just healthier and able to absorb more force, but also from an athleticism standpoint and being able to go through, or basically what we call the V curve of movement, which is absorb force rapidly, stop it abruptly, and redirect that force explosiving.
Mm-hmm. Now we can go to, go ahead.
No, which goes into everything that you think of in baseball, whether it be stealing a base, swinging a bat, throwing a ball, diving for a ground ball, etc. It's all if without an ability to absorb force first. Wow, that's a tongue twister. Then stop that force and redirect it. Then you won't be explosive.
Mm-hmm. Now, real quick here, it looks like, so a lot of these exercises here, well, not the exercise themselves, but these are supersets or trisets sometimes.
Yeah.
Is that unique to you, or because I feel like some workout programs, it's a lot of, instead of the superset with the snatch and the incline press at the top here, it will be one, you do those 3 sets and then you move on to the next exercise instead of adding that, superset right next to each other, right back to back. Where here it looks like this with the snatch and the incline press, probably the incline press might be lighter, a little lighter weight so he can get to the 16 reps.
So with this particular example, interestingly, yeah, and a lot of coaches like to complex and superset and stuff like that. I'm a big fan for different reasons. in this particular case here, we're doing a couple of things. This is not so much a performance kind of complex as it is more of a tissue building complex.
Mhm.
So we're saving a little bit of time by combining exercises together. We're basically combining a pull in the single arm dumbbell snatch with a push in the single arm incline press. So we're combining two different movements in one. And then the other part of that is it's creating time under tension. So essentially we're eliciting more muscle response. Believe it or not, these two exercises we actually do at the same weight. It kind of correlates pretty well that way. Incline press is easier to execute than a single arm snatch. So in this case, let's say Manny on an 8 and 16 rep is probably doing a 50-pound dumbbell. When we go to 612, he's probably at a 60-pound dumbbell, and we might be up to a 70-pound dumbbell by the time we're doing the 5 and 10s on week 3.
Right.
So it'll be like a single arm effort. So he will do one arm where he'll snatch the weight, the middle week, 6 reps. He'll lay right into the incline press and he'll pop out 12 presses right immediately. Then he'll go to the other arm, the same thing with the other arm, and then back and forth. So without even trying, we're cutting down time like crazy. We're eliciting a lot of muscle tension, or time under tension, and we're getting a little bit of cardio benefit out of it as well because we're nonstop moving in that one.
Right.
And you see the cleans, and then you see that, okay, now we're focusing on just cleans. Let's get after it. If you see just one exercise like that, chances are we're probably trying to move some weight.
Right. How much is it the same kind of rest period between movement or exercises during most of his workouts? Like, is it 30 seconds, 60 seconds? What is it?
We'll play with that as well. So
Uh-huh.
if we're trying to get the tempo up a little bit and increase the conditioning a little bit, then we'll speed it up a bit. Right now we were in a phase where we were trying to get after some heavy movements or some very dynamic movements. So we were just basically resting until recovery.
Okay.
And we'll do that a lot. Unlike other sports, direct stamina of physiological kind of needs don't really apply to baseball. You swing a bat, you reset, you stop, you're basically recovered by the time you swing the bat again. Same with anything else. Other than having to stand for a lot of hours, there's not a huge metabolic component to baseball. So understanding that, then what do we need to get out of it? Well, we need to get explosive, and we need to be able to be powerful. So we'll rest accordingly.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of his cardio, during the off season, at the start, is it less and then it moves forward more and more towards spring training when he needs to, when you're obviously going to be more in getting ready for the season? Is that how you guys do that?
Actually, we'll kind of fluctuate that, and it'll go up, down, and then up and then down again, and it'll finish on a down where again we're just super intensive at the end. Last year was a great year of that, where at the very end, we're doing very minimal sprints. We're doing maybe 2 or 3 heavy sled sprints. We're going about 7-8 yards of sled sprints with, man, I can't even remember how much we're throwing on there. We're throwing at least 8-9 plates on a sled, which is kind of, it's unheard of. Like most athletes won't sprint with that much weight on a sled. Usually the sled sprints are known to be on the lighter side, somewhere around 20-25% of body weight or speed slowdown. And we go the opposite. We go extreme on that. And then we couple that with, again, maybe 2 or 3 sprints after that. That's not including all the warm up and drilling that we do, sprint specific drilling, which is pretty taxing, but the actual, what we consider the work part, it's minimal at the end. But, he was running 108, 107, 10-meter flies, which is really, on cleats, on turf, which is really fast,
Right.
that'll translate to easily a 102 to even maybe even faster on if he had spikes on a track like most 10-meter flies are measured. So he was moving. At the same time, we were able to pack on some weight. He came into camp last year like at 230. So he was moving faster than he ever has, and he had put on a solid 10 pounds more than he had in the previous few years. So it was a great off season for us. And we, like I said, we at the very end, we had very little as far as conditioning went. We worried about that kind of in the two middle phases.
Okay. And this last spreadsheet here, I was interested kind of looking over this before on, I know this is only Monday, but
Yeah.
there's more here. It looks more total body in this workout here, with the squats, the deadlifts, but then more on the end or alternating. Actually, you have the band stability push-ups, the press, well, in the middle of the workout, and then you end more still with, lateral lunges, rotational ball throws, and then you go back more to curls. And so so you're varying, I know this is different off seasons, but so do you like varying between lower body, upper body specific and total body, or is it so it's just evolving, I guess is my question.
Yeah. It's so this is more of a typical program that you see out of us than maybe the other one that you saw. We're usually attacking some sort of lower body every single day. We might have a little bit more focus on upper body on certain days, but for the most part, it's a full body workout with a big focus on lower body. And that's not just independent to baseball. That's most power sport athletes, whether you're talking about field sports, court sports, or even track and field. Obviously, especially track and field, we spend a considerable amount of time on just developing lower body and everything up through the core, which includes a lot of hip kind of stuff. So having said that, so you'll see in this one we're doing a good amount of kind of like triphasic, again, working on eccentric, isometric, and concentric back to back to back. You'll see like the complex A, we're doing a iso band hold at a half squat. I'd have to kind of show you what that kind of means, but basically you're pulling on a real heavy band. You're holding it at about 90-degree angle. You're trying to isometric hold that for 30 seconds, which is extremely taxing. Right there, we go to a weighted depth drop, which would be your eccentric component. So basically, you're dropping off a box with some sort of resistance, either holding dumbbells on the side or holding a med ball on your chest or something like that, and you're dropping. And again, you're trying to stick, kind of like you saw in that one of the original videos of the trap bar deadlifts that we were showing earlier. And then we're going to an actual trap bar deadlift where we're trying to just rip it, pick up a lot of weight and pull it up as fast as we can. And we did 30 seconds, then 5 and 5, and you'll see how the reps kind of progress from week to week on that, where on week 2 we actually increased 10 seconds, but we increased 10 seconds by just adding a set. So we take off, we increased 10 seconds, but we take off 10 seconds from each set, and so we're doing 2 sets of 20 before we're going to the depth drops, before we're going to the trap bar. And then on the last one, we do kind of similar, where we drop now to 15 seconds, but we're doing 3 sets of 15 seconds. And hopefully with each one of those, we're adding resistance to the hold.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
Whether we're using a band or whether we're using, let's say, a barbell, for instance, just to make it a simple analogy. On the first one, we might be holding for 30 seconds with a barbell and 25s on each side. On the second one, maybe we're holding a barbell and 45s on each side. And the last week, maybe we're holding a barbell, 45 and a 25 on each side. Right, for the 3 sets of 15 seconds for the isometric component, and then obviously increasing from there.
Right. Last question in terms of his workouts and that we're seeing here. How important for his training is the core? I know you mentioned that, and I know that a lot of these, movements already involve the core.
Right.
But what's core specific things are you, doing with him?
That's a great question. So it's a great question for a couple of reasons. One of them is because when we first started our I guess journey together or whatever, they kept telling me it's not enough core. It's not enough core. I want more core. I want more core. And I understood where they're coming from. I mean, basically their entire careers, they spent half their workouts doing core stuff, right?
Right.
What I try to explain to them is the way we do core is through the actual exercises themselves. An ability to stabilize single leg exercises, single arm exercises, going super eccentrically heavy on a trap bar drop, like we saw. Like, again, I keep going back to that one, or a heavy front rack squat, right? All those stuff is engaging the core way more than sitting there and holding planks and doing side planks and doing Russian twists or whatever. Not to say that we don't do it,
Right.
but it's a minimal part of our workout, to be honest with you.
Right, because like if you,
right here, yeah, basically all three of these exercises that you see back to back to back, all engage, all require an incredible engagement of core stability. Even the lunge jumps, you know, if not, the trunk will be falling over on the lunge jumps. So
because even from personal experience, if you don't like, if you try to do like I've tried to do exercises sometimes and try not to use my core to know the difference, and sometimes it's hard to stay up because of, and you just realize the core strength. Like even just like this right here, you don't want to mess up your back here, right? So using core is important, using glutes. So yeah, just I think I really wanted to get into that core question because I think some people, you see all these YouTube videos, right? And we can stop sharing the screen here, but so you see all these videos of 10, 15-minute core workouts that they add on top of it, where that could be nice, but like if you're doing it properly, I feel like you're getting a good core workout throughout your workout.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, that's, it takes a while to get athletes to understand that, especially if they've been exposed to a lot of core throughout the years. But luckily within a couple of years, they kind of got the concept. They stopped, asking me too much about core. Now, doesn't mean that we don't do stability exercises. We'll do a boatload of bird dogs and functional things that we've identified to kind of help stabilize the back. We actually use those as primers before we go to a heavy squat, for instance, right? And there's other exercises that are kind of intricate, hard to explain, that we've kind of identified as specific core exercises that really help us. But we don't sit there doing abs or doing GHC for much, even though I think you saw it on one of the workouts there. That was probably me trying to appease them somehow. But it's mostly targeted through the actual dynamic exercises that we're doing.
All right, last couple questions here. For his diet, I know you're not his nutritionist, but what is he eating? Just you don't have to go meal by meal, but during the season, what is he usually eating to maintain breakfast, lunch, dinner? I don't know how many meals he has, but if it was a breakfast, lunch, dinner, what is he usually eating?
Okay, so last year when we were actually trying to gain some weight and put on some mass, he was being a lot more diligent. I'm talking about off season. I'll get into the in season. Okay. We're trying to be a little bit more diligent about his caloric intake and when to take it. So he was having breakfast before workouts. He'd have a meal. We lift, and then he does his fielding work, and then he's hitting after our training, which is not just lifting, actually, it's running and lifting. So he definitely needs a meal right after that when he moves on to that stuff. Off-season workouts will last, people don't realize it can last a whole day. With me alone, he's with me for 2 to 3 hours, and then it's another 2 to 4 hours of work, after that. So last year he did a great job in the off season of timing his meals, having staying balanced, not anything crazy. Staying balanced in your protein intake, your caloric, your carbohydrate intake, and your fats, right? And then from there, just having about 4 to 5 meals every single day, trying to be as healthy and clean as possible without worrying too much about, I'm on this diet and my protein was at 50% and it should be at 30% or whatever it might be. Just trying to stay healthy, stay away from the junk stuff, even though we all know he loves McDonald's. But I do too, so I can't blame him. But he did a great job with that this last offseason. This offseason, we're trying to kind of get the weight down just a little bit. We felt maybe we were a little too heavy. So now he's doing a little bit of intermittent fasting before the workouts. So we're getting our workout in. Our workouts are a little shorter this year. We're focusing 2 days on speed and agility together, and then we're focusing 3 days on lifting. We're kind of trying that out through a couple phases, see how that reacts, and then we'll change it up come next phase probably. But in that process, he's actually trying to do a little intermittent fasting, get his first workout in. So he's actually getting his first meal prior to doing the field work and the hitting and all that.
Mm-hmm. And then during the season, what's that like?
And then during the season, it's just a matter of trying to stay as healthy as possible. It's hard with the travel schedule. It's hard with whatever they might have at a clubhouse, but trying to stay smart. Trying to to eat when you're supposed to eat, if you can manage a way to do it. Get your breakfast in when you're home, before you leave to the ballpark. If it's a later game, make sure you have another meal before, at least, and then get home and have dinner. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you're exhausted, and the last thing you're thinking about is I need to eat. You want to sit down, watch TV, and unwind a little bit, or whatever it may be, or just pass out, and or family duties, whatever you might have, and somehow you got to figure out, okay, listen, I need to get dinner in, and it can't be like I'm starving, so I'm gonna munch on chocolate and chips. It's got to be, I got to get some good protein in. I got to get the right carbs in. I got to get some fats in. So, but luckily, he's worked with a lot of good chefs along the way, and they've done a good job of making tasty meals that are healthy and thoughtful. So we've been lucky with that.
What would you say are his, favorite like go-to typical, healthy meals? It like salmon, chicken, broccoli, rice, that
yeah. So
original thing, or
Manny at the end of the day is super Latin. So if you're talking about chicken, rice, and beans, he's a happy camper, which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes they cook it. They don't cook it to the highest what do you call it? Nutritional value. They might put a little extra fat in there, but that's just kind of like the Latin in us, I guess. But yeah, so he loves fish. He does a good job eating fish. Actually, there was a point where they were eating a lot of fish. If I remember, maybe like 2 years ago, they were eating fish 3-4 times a week, and it was working out pretty well. Steaks, healthy steaks, grilled if possible, at least a couple times a week, if not more. He could eat steak daily. And he's one of those people that can eat, some people can handle steak daily and be fine. Some people can. I believe he can. It's, without telling you directly that he does that every day, I believe he can. And then keeping the carbohydrates clean also, right? Not too much white rice, even though white rice is a big staple of their diet. Substituting it for brown rice, substituting it for some sweet potatoes, that sort of stuff. So, okay. And then having access to a chef allows them to be creative and get the macros that you need and the calories that you need in really delicious dishes, right? So that helps. Someday I hope to have my own chef.
Right. Yeah, we all would. Yeah. So last question here. What is? I guess it's kind of you and him. What is your guys' mentality when you go into the gym? In the off season every day, or when you're communicating with him, via text or call or whatever during the season, what's his mentality when he's going in there?
Man, it's pretty cool, man. It's a great question. It's attack. It's attack is our mentality. It's the same mentality he has on the field. It's the same mentality he has at the plate. We'll go in there, and even on days that, I'm feeling lazy, he's feeling tired, whatever, when the moment comes, we just the mind just switches and we attack and we attack off-season workouts pretty heady. We get after it. We get after it really well, which is one of my favorite things about working with this guy is his approach is fearless. It's fearless to a point that sometimes I got to hold him back a little bit.
Right.
First couple of years, it'd be like, Nick, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. Now he's like, throw some weight on that sucker. I'm like, hey, you sure? He's like, yeah, throw some weight on that thing. So it's cool, man. It's a cool dynamic.
Yeah. All right. This has been fun. Episode 93 of the Talking Friars podcast. Ben Fadden, Nick Soto, again, Manny's trainer. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining.
No, man. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.